Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, feds and degenerates, cuckolds of all ages. It's that time once again. It is time for Mild's Culture Plate. I'm your host, Mild Kevin Miles, and it is Friday, May 31st, 2024. And kind of have a casual chat stream for you folks today. I didn't really advertise it out, but I am kind of hoping we have a decent audience of some sort. Uh, Not really, don't really have a big, show plan for today. I'm kinda gonna talk about my reaction to the New York Trump verdict, and, I might go over a few conversations I saw happening online about it, and some of the drama regarding, uh, the civil war among LawTube, and the differences in the different commentary regarding the Ricada legal incident. So I'll be talking a little bit about that, but more so from a what people online are saying and why and how and you know different perspectives that people have and why they might have them. One other thing I want to do is maybe talk a little bit about some of the comic books I've read recently. Do a little comic review, kind of closer to the end of the show. Um, and yeah, fucking women, man. No, just kidding. I would like to start off by giving a little health update. There may be some time I might have to take some time off due to some medical issues I'm having. I am gonna. I'm hoping instead of taking time off, I'll be able to do more streams, but it's not necessarily looking like that's going to happen. I am mostly healthy at this point. These are diagnosis things. I'm not under any kind of current treatment. I haven't been diagnosed with anything scary, so but this is all kind of stemming from the issues I had before. The sleep apnea diagnosis I don't think is accurate, and I'm still having some of the neurological issues I was having before, and breathing issues. And so, yeah, we're gonna explore seeing a couple different specialists on that. So, um, I'm not sure what that's going to mean for the show. I mean, Saturdays I should still be mostly free, and Wednesday evenings, doctors' offices aren't really open Wednesday evenings, but I may have to pick up some overtime at work on those days to cover for the time off I'm going to be taking. So, until further notice, keep an eye out at the description down in the description, all the social media. I may have to reschedule some streams sometimes. So as much as I, shit talk other live streamers and talk about the importance of maintaining a regular schedule and doing shows when you say you're going to do them. Even I slip up sometimes and make mistakes. In fact, this show right here is because I fucked up and did do a show Monday when I said I would. So I'm kind of doing this as a makeup stream for Memorial Day, and I wanted to give you folks a little bit of an update on what I kind of had going on personally that may create some instability in my future streaming schedule. Oh my, folks. So Donald J. Trump was found guilty by a jury yesterday unanimously. And a lot of people are kind of discussing, well, what does that mean for the country? Does that mean we're in a civil war type frame? Does it mean Trump's going to win, Trump's going to lose? Does it mean, does how unjust? Oh my lord. We have just me and Art Fan in the chat saying, "What up, Mild? How you doing, friend?" I thought I had my Rumble Studio set to show chat on screen, and it is not happening. So apparently, I need to figure out the what setting I have wrong here. I was working the other day. Oh, there it is. Now it's up on the screen. what the hell? It's up in my banner though, kinda harder to see. Wonder if I could fix that. Hang on. Let me see if I could help fix that. Let me bring the banner down. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. And then let me bring the banner up on OBS. There we go. And then let me see if I can. Nope, that's not it. See if I can do that. Do that. I don't know. Folks, tell me if this is horrible. No, no, no. I don't really love that, but bring myself down a little bit. Well, no, that ain't gonna work either. Sorry. Sometimes, how the sausage is made. Hey, that might work. Let's try that for a while. Hopefully that'll help you with the chat on the screen. Right now it's just me and Art Fan. Cheers and welcome, brother. Good seeing you out there. And yeah, how am I doing? I'm doing pretty good. Some of the medical issues I was talking about. I just want to go to the doctor and it not be here. Take a bunch of fucking pills and go take this over counter medication for the rest of your fucking life. No, let's just get to the root of the problem. I'm really sick of going to doctors and that being the game plan. I kind of have You kind of have to advocate for yourself and be like, well, can I talk to a specialist about this? No, here, just take this pill. Just go away, and put money in the pharmaceutical companies' profit margins. And so I'm a little disheartened by that, but overall, it's good. I hate that my employment is tied so closely to my health and government for that matter. And so therefore I'm required to jump through certain hoops. Yeah, JMAF won't be a guinea pig. Yeah. Yeah, so it's a little disheartening, but I do think I was able to advocate for myself pretty well. I think honestly I need to seek some more neurological testing, but they want me to explore the respiratory options and sinus options first. Because to be honest, I was kind of going through all this sleep apnea stuff, and then I heard Nick Rekieta on his stream talking about his wife has like a central nervous system sleep apnea where her brain just doesn't tell her lungs to breathe. And after hearing that, I'm like, well, that sounds more like what I have than an issue with the back of my throat because I literally don't think I have an issue with the back of my throat. But again, you go to these sleep studies, they put sensors on you, and it just detects whether or not you're breathing. It doesn't detect as much your brainwave activity. It detects oxygen and all kinds of shit. But go figure. I just want a good night's sleep, and really, that's what's going on with me. My memory is shot. My reaction times are messed up because I just don't get enough sleep. And I'm passing out all the damn time. JMav says, "Yeah, my financial is fucked. It's so nuts. I just create and plant seeds." Here's the thing. For the most part, I say, I'm pretty blessed that I don't have. And he says he can't sleep because of stress. Yeah, yeah. The stress is a big factor in the sleep, and for me, look, I'm a very paranoid kind of person already, and then the not sleeping kind of adds to it, and then it adds to the stress. Now, I've been blessed in a lot of ways. For one, I'm not as concerned with the financial aspects of my life. I feel very blessed. However, I have noticed in the last 3 months, the amount of money I'm able to throw back in savings as opposed to, living to paycheck, the amount of money I'm able to throw back into savings has been dwindling rapidly, and it's looking like probably within the next 3 months, I will be back to living paycheck to paycheck just because the cost of food, the cost of gas, the cost of bills are going up, and, here in a couple of months, I'm gonna have to, renew the license plates on my cars and everything else, so it's hey, we got Billdozer74 in the chat saying, "Was up, y'all, long work day." Good seeing you, Billdozer. Hey, and stay tuned, Billdozer, because I was in your chat last night and I was kind of pushing you, man. And I'm gonna take a moment to apologize, but I do want to address the little disagreement we had when I was in your chat last night. But I'm gonna talk more. I'm gonna talk more about the global how people are viewing that topic. I'm gonna kind of address it from that matter, and I'm not gonna call you out directly. Da, 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 da. Man, that's rough. Wow. Uh, so yeah, but I am blessed because, through all of this situation with my medical conditions, um, one thing they did tell me is that my heart and lungs appear to be working okay. And for a guy who's with a guy who's addicted to nicotine as badly as I am, for my heart and lungs to still be doing as well as they are, I at one point in time, I was pretty close to 305 pounds, and I knew it was taking a toll on my organs. And between that and the nicotine and the breathing, I'm glad I pretty much have a lot of that under control. And they say my heart's healthy. I my blood pressure was fine. So there is a silver lining in all of this, in that I've taken a lot of steps to improve my health. Uh Yeah, just me and our fan says a pack a day. I go through I go through like a bottle of vape juice every 2 weeks. Okay, so yeah, the Trump stuff. Oh man. So I'm seeing all these people talking, and granted, I fall down a rabbit hole a lot because of Twitter. I tend to fall into an echo chamber because of Twitter. Now, there was this video on forget who it was, but they were talking about how it was a woman, she and her husband, when they get on social media, they could watch the exact same video, and it's a video of a woman complaining about her husband. And she goes in the comments, and all the comments are women and simps agreeing with the woman, right? And then she looks at her husband's phone and goes to the same post, and this is either TikTok or Facebook or something, but she was talking about how she goes in on his phone, and all the comments that the algorithm feeds her on his phone, on his account, is like, "Yeah, this woman's crazy, and he shoulda left you," and blah, blah, blah. And it's this situation where, even if we try, right, to just look at neutral news or try to get out of our little bubbles, if we try to get away from being pigeonholed into echo chambers, the algorithms, the social media algorithms will still feed us content that will have us divided. And honestly, I think that's part of the case with a lot of the reaction to the Trump verdict yesterday. You have the left wing who are saying, Clearly, he broke the law. Clearly, the court found him guilty, and that's all there is to it. And then you have everyone on the right talking about how much of an injustice this is. And I'm reminded of the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. How to most people on the right, most people paying attention to the trial, the facts of the case were clear. To the people who were watching the evidence, looking into the evidence, the facts of the case were clear. And yet, there were a lot of people who were following it in the news, but not following the trial. And to hear news outlets tell the story, to hear it third hand. And this is the problem with this case. And so many of these Donald Trump cases are these media gags where we have to get third hand accounts from media outlets that either we don't trust or that are biased one way or another. And yeah, Bulldozer, seeing a few independents acknowledging how fucked this verdict was. Um, so I was listening to Eric Hunley's Friday Law panel earlier, and I heard Nate the lawyer chime in, and he was kind of talking about this situation, and he mentioned it, but I think either he had a problem with his computer or something, and he had to drop out, and he wasn't able to follow up. And then, of course, all the other guys proceeded to talk about how much of an injustice this is. Now, I kind of agree with Nate the lawyer. Yes, it's an injustice, but they found a legal loophole. You know, they found a way to do it, and there is a legal argument to be made that they did it in a valid way, but bullshit way. And Billdozer says, I read so much of the court transcripts. Well, yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of that going on. But from my understanding of the case, and I could have it fucking totally wrong, but from my understanding of what I specifically went out and sought out every left wing source who also read court transcripts, and I don't have time to do it myself, but I sought out every left wing source to see what arguments they were making, what rebuttals right wingers were making. And to me, it seems like, yes, it's bullshit. It's bullshit, but they found a loophole in the law, right? They found a way to say, we can call this a crime, we can call this a crime, and if this crime exists, then if there's anything remotely related to an election, uh, then that's a felony. And to me, what it sounds like they're telling me is that by Trump telling Stormy Daniels to shut her mouth and then giving her money, that's essentially an election ad, because by her shutting up, that influences the election. And since you're not paying for that out of your election account, then that's an accounting error to cover up a crime, and therefore New York gets to try you under this felony, the use of campaign funds to cover up a crime. Yeah, okay, there may be a technicality in the law that allows them to do that, but if they start doing that, then they have to pretty much do that to every political candidate in the country. Every political candidate in the country, I don't want to say participates in quote unquote hush money, but they do certain things that may be ethically a crime to some degree, that would have some kind of value that you could assign in a tax form. And yeah, you're right, Billdozer. The judge did everything he could in the instructions to help the jury find a way to be guilty. And that's the bullshit part of it, right? That's the corrupt part of it. Is they, from the get-go, they were going to do everything they could to make sure that at the end of the day, The news outlets would be able to print the headline. But yeah, yeah, of course, Bulldozer, yeah, the payment didn't happen till after the election, and it was from Cohen's funds. But they called it but again, they made an argument that it could be a reimbursement, and the jury, of course, through the instructions, was able to pigeonhole it. I agree with all those things. But again, I have to say that like so many of these court cases, it comes down to, well, we have a jury of idiots. We do. We have a jury of idiots, and granted, there's that old saying, "I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6," when it comes to using your right to defend yourself. But man, that jury of 12 can sure be dumb sometimes. And I get it. They have to interpret things as the judge tells them, but there are a lot of injustices happening in our country because of it. Um, Man, there's so many thoughts that I had that I'm having a brain fart now. So yeah, what does this mean going forward? Does this mean now Trump's got an automatic win because so many people in this country are going to see this as the injustice it is? I doubt it. I think a lot of people are just the same normies, especially voters. Voters, a lot of normies don't vote, but there are a lot of normies that will vote whatever way the media tells them to vote. And that's a real unfortunate fact about this country is we all, like I said earlier, because of algorithms, because of the way we socialize nowadays in these groups, the groupthink has taken over our country. And so now everyone just wants to be a part of the cool kids club. And so they will go along with whatever's trendy. And right now, it's still trendy to shit on Donald Trump. And as long as that's the case, people will vote just to vote against Donald Trump. As much as people hate Joe Biden, as much as people want Joe Biden to go away, they're not going to vote for Donald Trump. Now, I do think that what this verdict has done is engaged the quote unquote never Trumper Republicans to realize, well, okay, the Democrats are going to play dirty. They're going to play dirty. They're going to get Joe Biden back in, and they're going to start packing the courts. So yeah, maybe I should not be a never Trumper, and maybe I should kind of do what I can to at least make sure some conservative values last for the next 4 years. That's what will happen. You will have conservatives getting freaked out that, oh, yeah, that same government Department of Justice, the same justice system that just did this to Trump. Yeah, maybe I don't want these crazy far leftists aiming that gun at me. So, yeah, there's that. There was one other angle I wanted to take it from. Do I think Trump will see time in behind bars? I don't think so. I don't think they need to. I think this whole thing was just to put felonies on the record. I think it was so that they could challenge certain state laws to try to, going back to what happened in Colorado, thank you, Supreme Court, so that more states would have an excuse to take him off of their ballots. I think this is all election interference. Quite frankly, this is all just election interference. They don't care if he's behind bars. They just don't want him on the ballot. And if he's on the ballot, then they wanna make him the dirtiest candidate they could make him. They want to illegitimize the thought that anyone would think he's a nice guy. And don't get me wrong, he's not a nice guy. We all know that. Trump supporters know Trump is not a nice guy. In fact, that's half the reason they think he's funny and will support him. So there's that. I'm seeing a lot of chatter on the Twitter. Oh wow! Speaking of, I was just called a racist on Twitter for using the term DEI. That's great. I love it. I love it how it was their term, and because I criticized it, oh, that's racist. Anyway, um, so the idea of Trump being a felon, right? That's just amazing because the only people who give a shit are people who already fucking hate him. It's just like the bleach thing, right? He said, "Oh, there could be disinfectants that could kill that virus," and the media made a claim that he said something else. Folks, consult with your physician about any medical situations. Oh, but speaking of division, so a lot of the people I saw on that, and maybe this was the situation. Maybe Nate the lawyer didn't have computer problems. Maybe he dropped out because Viva Frey joined. Because there's this big rift in the LawTube community right now over the Ricada drama. I mean, it started with the Ricada drama, and then disagreements over the legal breakdown um, has really divided a bunch of online content creators. So, not just Viva Frey and Robert Barnes versus half of LawTube, but you also have uh, Andrew from Legal Mindset going up against that Star Wars girl Anna. People are viciously divided on this, and I mentioned earlier. Remember the audience here. I was in his audience having a disagreement with him. So people are strongly opinionated about this situation, and I get it. Um, One of the things I mentioned on my last live stream is I was following uh, lead attorney's coverage on this, and I really appreciate w- how lighthearted lead attorney takes some of these stories. Right, he doesn't make light of the situation, but he's able to entertain in a way that's not disrespectful, but doesn't take it so seriously that it's like I'm so offended. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, we do have a family that was affected, like traumatized. No matter how you look at it, there was trauma, whether it be from the behavior of the parents in that household or from the behavior of the police department. That family suffered a trauma. And we can all disagree on how much of which trauma, who's responsible for and why, and whether to be mad at church ladies or whether to be mad at Nick or whether to be mad at ultimately ultimately everyone. I would bet everyone who's commenting about the situation wants to see the same goal. And, with the exception of some Kiwi farmers and A-log streamers who they get off they get off on people failing in life. But for the most part, most content creators that are talking about the Nick Rekieta situation, they want to see that 3rd act. My last live stream, I was talking about, uh, you know, America's favorite hero stories, right? The rise of the hero, the fall of the hero, and the return of the champion. Like the 3 Star Wars movies or Rocky, you know. We all wanna see that 3rd chapter. We all wanna see Nick Rekieta get his fucking life together, get healthy, and come back. And unfortunately, a lot of people are talking about, goddamn, this is one of the biggest legal news stories ever with this Trump verdict. Like, perfectly designed almost to be a topic of a Nick Rekieta drinking stream. But stay the fuck away. Stay the fuck away, get clean, get healthy. And yeah, are people gonna grift? Are people gonna have a shit take? Are people gonna be angry? Are people gonna make accusations? Yeah. But honestly, when I think about people like Legal Mindset, and when I think about people like Potentially Criminal, and even to some degree Josh Moon in the farms, I see people who befriended Nick and in some ways are stabbing him in the back, but I also think they they stabbed him in the back because they saw a man that they once respected disrespecting himself. I don't know so much about Josh, but we're almost autistic. A lot of us content creators, we get real autistic, especially in terms of the law, in terms of consistency, in terms of just thinking we know somebody. And I'll say it, man. To me, no, I'm not mad at all. I'm not upset at all. In fact, I used to, my lord, a year and a half ago, I got in an argument with Nick in his locals chat about monogamy, and he was vehemently defending monogamy. I mean, don't blame me, folks. Don't blame me, folks, because I told him, it's not for everybody. I told him, no, don't do it. But I was telling him the reasons why people did it. And, so we had some disagreements about monogamy because I don't I live monogamously, but I don't necessarily consider myself a monogamous minded person. I don't think it's a default setting for life. I do think it is a godly setting. I do think it's a conservative setting, and if that's the kind of life you want, you can do it. And I do think most people who take the other route, the polyamorous or polygamist route, do it for the wrong reasons. They don't do it for love. They do it for lust. They do it for greed. They do it for gluttony. A lot of them do it for the wrong reasons. They don't do it for love. They don't do it because they've grown an actual attachment to a person on a level beyond passion, right? And so that's the disagreement I was having with Nick, and then to find out, oh yeah, yeah, they've not really been monogamous. It's like, yeah, that's how I experienced this. Well, maybe this guy isn't what I was sold on, right? Or maybe he's changed, right? And I could see how if I was in a situation like Sean or Andrew, where you're on stream with this guy a lot, and he's like Andrew. I don't think Andrew or Sean are being moral superioritists, right? But the idea that Nick would be the first guy to make fun of someone in this situation is a little ironic. Now, granted, because there are children involved, because now there are documents where members of their community, members of their family have now been doxxed, people who had wished to remain anonymous had actually given up the names of other people who, had no choice to wish to remain anonymous, and yet all their names are out. It's now that's tragic and insane, and that shouldn't be the fucking case. All of these legal documents that we have seen, I really think people, especially on certain forums on the internet, should be doing a better job redacting that information so that these people aren't harassed by internet weirdos. But the internet's gonna internet, and these are semi-public documents, so it is what it is. It's just really fucking unfortunate in a small town like that, your name gets out attached to a case that's now gone worldwide. You kinda become a figure, which, in some ways can be real endearing. I think back to the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, how many cast of characters. I mean, I still follow Drew Hernandez here on Rumble. He had an interesting Trump stream last night. So a lot of these people wind up being a cast of characters in a nationally publicized trial. They can't just go back to a peaceful life, at least not for a while. And again, it all started with one person's bad decisions. Cool, Bill. Oh yeah, man. It's this is part of the problem that I was talking about earlier with why our nation is so divided, because a lot of people, man, they find it hard to agree to disagree. I got a good friend of mine, really was closed-minded and making some accusations and went on a Trump derangement rant. And all I did to invoke this fury was mention Joe Rogan's name. And this person admits they don't watch Joe Rogan. They don't know who his guests are most of the time. They don't know the topics that are talked about on Joe Rogan, but he's heard that Joe Rogan's voting for Trump, considered him a far right wing broadcaster, and therefore it is what it is. I was simply saying that Joe Rogan's show is a show where thinkers go on to talk about thinking. And again, because Joe Rogan thought about Donald Trump, well, no, that's just absurd. And so again, we can't reach this point where we're just gonna have to agree to disagree on this, like this is the thing, people need to say that phrase more often. We're just gonna have to agree to disagree, and let's go have a beer. And because we want so bad to be right, we want to debate, we want to solve the world's problems, right? We want our philosophy to flourish. And we want to root out the evils in our society, and we want to do it now. But nobody's mind changes from an aggressive conflict instantaneously. In fact, that further divides us and has us putting up our swords and shields and backing into our corners, readying ourselves for the next fight. And then we take everything we learned from that fight, and then we look for the next incoming target. And then we hear, "Oh, you're a feminist? Well, what about this thing 15 other feminists said? Do you own their words?" No. We have tribalized our society beyond repair, beyond repair, to where now it takes folks like this, folks just chatting, folks like I said, like Nate the lawyer, going in and saying, "Man, I can't believe how extreme people are about this Donald Trump." verdict. Either it is the greatest thing in the world. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, that's it, Bulldozer. Yeah, Bernie Bros. You know, that's just it. I could be friends with Bernie Bros, because a lot of Bernie Bros were like, "Yeah, let's audit the banks." Even though Bernie himself backed down on that, most Bernie Bros were like, "Yeah, let's root out the influence the bankers and corporations have on the politicians, and let's audit the banks." I just think it's unfortunate that Bernie caved on that when invited upon Air Force One right before it was set to be voted on. Insane. Anyway, so those are my thoughts on the Trump thing and the Ricada thing. I really wish I'm not a fucking kumbaya kind of guy. I'm a little hippy dippy, I'll admit, but I'm not a kumbaya kind of guy. And look, if that Star Wars girl and legal mindset can't get along, if Robert Barnes and granted, Robert Barnes blocked me. I personally think he's bitch made. Hey, we got Kevin over on Rumble. People are going to have difference than I do on politics where I live, but we can find things in which to be agreeable. Well, and that's just it. I think this is part of the issue with this election cycle, and this is why I think Trump's going to be okay in this election because I do think enough people are suffering with the dollar, right? The crash of the dollar that's happening with the inflation, the extreme raise in prices. Now, granted, the left wing is doing everything in their in their arsenal to make this look like greedy corporations and not the fact that our dollar has just lost all value. But a lot of people also are like, yeah, well, this is happening under Biden, so I blame Biden, right? Biden, they falsely, the normies falsely believe Biden could quote unquote rein in the corporations and their greediness and isn't doing it. And so they're just as mad at Biden as they should be at the Federal Reserve. And I think that's a good sign for Donald Trump. And that, yeah, even people on the far left are kind of done with this status quo and are willing to throw away what they have for this other path, even in the temporary. The problem is, man, they really like the kid trans stuff, the normies do. But I think they will come around to that like they have with the medical experimentation stuff. I think they'll eventually come around on the trans stuff too. We're seeing evidence of that over in Europe. I think the United States is just a little behind on that. And ultimately, I do think the Overton window is shifting a little more right, a little more toward the middle. And so, yeah, as much as people hate Donald Trump, I think they realize that maybe that Republican that lives down the street isn't a complete asshole. I mean, this was the point of January 6th, right? The point of the whole J6 insurrection was to make all of us look like we were violent and crazy so that this wouldn't happen, so that people wouldn't agree with us, so that there was a narrative as to why you can't be friends with those right wingers. And again, I just did a whole stream about how much I disagree with fellow libertarians. But, you know, we we have our tribalism, we have our separation, but at the end of the day, we all need other people. We all need a community to belong to. I mean, granted, you don't need, right? But really, unless you're just talking to yourself and a dog, living in a cabin in the woods with no internet access, you're gonna find somebody to talk to, and you're gonna crave talking to those people. Anyway, let me take a little sip. getting a little long-winded. So yeah, I really have no content for tomorrow's show either yet. But I plan on doing a lot of researching. I mean, there have been some things in the news, uh, but ultimately, those are things that, because of how fast some things get outdated, I don't like to do show prep too early. I will hang on to some things and bookmark some stories, but for the most part, I like to wait until Saturday afternoon to get my Saturday show going. Sorry, I was distracted for a moment. But anyway, so part of the reason I was complaining about the inflation earlier and the money is because, yeah, I do. We got uh, DeJorbc C over on YouTube saying, "What's up? How's it going? Good seeing you. Good seeing you. Welcome, welcome." Is I do spend a lot of money on comic books, and that's kind of starting to fade down because I had at one point, about a month and a half ago, I had a reading stack that was this damn big. Uh, but again, part of that was I have two omnibuses that I'm slowly working through as a secondary thing to the actual comics I'm reading. So I'm about halfway through this, the Batman animated adventure omnibus. About halfway through that. I said I was gonna stop reading, Christopher Priest's Vampirella, and let me sorry, here we are. We're doing the comics. I'm gonna be wrapping the stream up soon, so if you came for the politics and other stuff like that, thank you for coming. But yeah, I'm gonna be doing a little comic review and then wrapping the stream up here in just a few minutes. But I did wanna mention this. So don't run too far just yet because there is one comic I wanna talk about that y'all might find funny even from a political standpoint. So I've been reading Christopher Priest's Vampirella. And look, I find Christopher Priest most of the time to be pretty non-political. You know, he's often referred to as, one of the better African American writers in comic books, and he doesn't really usually take political stands. And I'm telling you, his uh his Deathstroke, his Deathstroke run, fucking amazing. Fucking amazing. I mean, he gets assholes, right? He understands the way assholes think, and I love it. And so I thought he'd be really good on Vampirella. And so I read his four Vampirella volumes and then the two Sinister Six volumes of the spin-off, right? And then so that was supposed to be the end of his Vampirella run, but it wasn't. It ended the four volumes ended on a cliffhanger in which Vampirella. Now, I want you to understand this. So, this is kind of like, look, I was never going to watch She-Hulk, but there were people online that were trashing it, and that was entertaining. Listening to people trash a show that I had no interest in watching. So, I want you folks to hear this. So, the last volume of his main Vampirella run, Vampirella, it flashes back to several years ago, where she winds up in the bedroom of a 10-year-old boy and protects him from demons, right? And then years later, so she erases his memory so he can't remember it. Years later, he's involved in some great battle that she's a part of. Now, you have to understand, she's like 2,000 years old or whatever. But he's involved in this current fight against demons, and she's like, "Oh, I'm in love with you. I would guess I've always been in love with you. I guess our destinies were intertwined." Right? And she falls in love with the guy. Come to find out, back when he was 10 years old, he was infected with a virus that made him susceptible to the spirit of Dracula entering his body. Now, I want you to think about that. It's like a Dracula AIDS, right? And so that's where that ended. Was she's about to marry this guy and try to save him from becoming Dracula. So then you get this spinoff, Vampirella, Dracula, a love story, Unholy. Unholy, a love story. And so, as people do in writing, when writers are writing a story, especially, they want to entertain, right? They want to engage people. When people write a story, a lot of times they'll put a plot twist. There's always a little plot twist of some sort. Well, the plot twist in this, right? So they're setting it up, right? Christopher Priest is setting it up for like 6 issues, 7 issues, that this guy, even though Vampirella is going to do everything she can to keep this guy from becoming Dracula, like they're foreshadowing that no, Dracula's coming and he's going to take this guy. Dracula is going to take this guy. Well, guess what? He doesn't become Dracula. He transmits the Dracula virus in his gay relationship. Yes, he sexually transmits the Dracula virus in a gay relationship. The Dracula's spirit is an STD. Interesting premise. There was some good writing around it, but man, that it almost sounds so ridiculous that it took me out of the story. Granted, the writing really took a downhill curve with those 2 story arcs. But all in all, yeah, pretty good Vampirella writing, and, I remember, most of the Comicsgate type people, when the first issue came out, including myself, uh, probably in here. When the first issue came out, a lot of people went and bought it because they wanted to set sales record. Yes, exactly, Bulldozer. Yes, exactly that. Anally transmitted Dracula. The spirit of Dracula invaded the guy's boyfriend. Dracula returned through this guy's boyfriend, and the way that guy was able to get the virus was through, yeah, the genetic transfer of 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 semen. Craziness, craziness. So yeah, a lot of folks in Comicsgate, they really wanted to see this Vampirella run succeed because it was a slap in the face to everything that Marvel and DC were doing. And it really seemed to be like, yeah, this was going to be something that we would have appreciated in the 80s. And then to see that this is how it ended up, just kind of all right then. Yeah. Now, I do hear that there are 2 more story arcs coming, that he's currently doing a Vampirella year 1 continuation of this, and then there's gonna be yet another Dracula story arc, spin-off kinda thing. I'm not sure if I'm buying those or not. The only reason I bought this one is, I got because after reading the other one, I was like, "Eh, the writing on that one wasn't too good." The only reason I bought this one is I got it for cheaper than I could get it on Amazon because one of my local comic shops was having a 10% off all graphic novel sale on Free Comic Book Day, and for some reason, a lot of the Dynamite stuff, Amazon charges cover price for. Since I was able to get it cheaper than cover price, I was like, "Well, screw it." That's one of the only things that comic shop even had, so I bought it. 'Cause I always, I'm always just like I was talking about with the tipping a couple streams ago, I always feel like if I'm in your shop for any reason doing anything, like, at the very least, I should buy something. And so that's why I bought that comic. Let's see, what else have I read recently? This. I read Trinity by Matt Wagner. I will say, the art is just top fucking notch. The splash pages, here you gotta and it kinda retells, like, some of the earliest meetings between Batman and Wonder Woman and Superman, and, I really like the art. The art is just outstanding. The story kinda I'll give the story itself, like, a 7 out of 10, but with the art, together with the art, it's like a 8.5 out of 10. Um, and yeah, so I believe it's just Matt Wagner did the story and the art in this. But, it's kind of the first how do I explain this? So you have Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and then they're facing off against Ra's al Ghul, who has Bizarro and Artemis as, like, side villains. Now, I find that interesting because if you've been reading any of the Red Hood books, well, now Red Hood is teamed up with Bizarro and Artemis, and I think that was meant to be a nod to Matt Wagner's work on this book. And I also think that the Rebirth Trinity was kinda meant to be a nod to that book, but that's more of like a weird flashback origin acid trip, and I didn't even read the 4th volume of it. It was so disappointing. Let's see, what else have I read recently? Let me look at my comic list here real quick. Okay, yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, Lois and Clark. Where is it? There it is. So I was really excited when I saw this coming out. So this was originally a digital first, Lois and Clark Doom Rising. One of the reasons I was excited is I saw that it was written by Dan Jurgens. Now, Dan Jurgens wrote this Lois and Clark, Road to Rebirth, right? And you see the packaging, you see the story, you see the black Superman costume, and you see that John's still a kid, whereas in current year comics, most current year comics, John is grown up and decided to be gay. I was like, man, a Dan Jurgens story where John's a kid and Superman's it's weird. They've it so I read this shortly after I read that shortly after I read this, right? These were both digital first comics. want you to see these. These were both digital first comics. Now, I want you to guess which of these is a nod to the story Death of Superman, and which one is just a shitty compilation of what do you call them? Anthology stories. You guessed it. This one is a shitty compilation of anthology stories, which again, I went by the author, Louise Simonson. She was highly influential in the Death of Superman story. I thought we would get a good nod to the history behind the Death of Superman. I thought we would get some more like tie-in stuff. And yeah, it all kind of tied into the Death of Superman story, but it was like it was more like completely unrelated things that were set like around the same time frame as the Death of Superman stuff, and not really what this was. What this was a nod to the villain Doomsday. Now, the problem I have with this book is they didn't pull it off, right? There's this weird emotional ooey gooey, oh, Superman was dead. It's almost like the remember 9/11 kind of thing. Like you're like everyone remember where they were the day Superman fell. Come on, no. It was interesting to see John figure out, "Oh, my dad has been dead before." Like, that was kind of interesting, but for the most part, the rest of it was dumb. And then you had, like, a doomsday knockoff villain that terrorized, I later in the book, known as Doombreaker. Some of it was okay. Oh, you see, Kevin, I never was into Grendel. Matt Wagner Grendel story that involved the passing along of the Grendel essence via sexual energy. Well, I wonder if that meant to be a nod to it. I wonder if Christopher Priest was given a tribute to Matt Wagner. Hmm. I don't know. I might have to start getting into Grendel. I've heard good things, but there are so many dang comic books out there. It's maybe I'm so normie that I just grasp onto Batman and Superman as the two biggest things, but you know, it is what it is. Let's see. So we have that. We have that. Um, I did read. No, that's not it. I already gave a review for Superman for All Seasons, but no, All Star Superman by Grant Morrison. I gotta say, it does the thing that Grant Morrison does. Grant Morrison likes to write from a point of view where it assumes you know the entire 85-year history of the character and know who the villains are and why they're doing what they're doing, and just it drops you right in the middle of the action. And yeah, I kind of like that sometimes, but I also think Grant Morrison, it's almost like Grant Morrison's doing the Sean Gordon Murphy thing, where Sean Gordon Murphy wrote White Knight with Batman, and he's like, yeah, here's every little Easter egg you could want as a Batman fan. Here you go. That's kind of how I felt All Star Superman was. A lot of people recommended it to me, and look, the story wasn't bad. But it's like, okay, so you see I have these Man of Steel, these John Byrne Man of Steel run here. So after Crisis on Infinite Earths, you had John Byrne take a lot of time to introduce a lot of Superman villains, a lot of ways to do it right, right? Kind of ease into the story, build it up, have a climax with the villain and move on. It's almost like Grant Morrison in All-Star Superman tried to retell a whole chunk of the John Byrne Superman run as like one epic. And it's like, it's kind of unnecessary. Like those stories already exist. I mean, I appreciate the way he did it, and the stories were good, but it's like, okay, we're gonna move from this villain to this villain to this villain, and we're gonna have this overarching theme of Lex Luthor being, jealous and a bad guy, and then a criminal, and then he's still plotting on Superman from prison. And the overall story was good, right? I can't complain about the overall story, but just like I do with Jeff Loeb, I gotta complain a little bit about, and I keep saying he. It is what it is. Grant Morrison doesn't identify as a he, but oh well. Y'all can be mad at me for misgendering. I'm doing what I'm doing. Uh, so yeah, I do I shit on the narrative of Jeff Loeb, the storytelling aspect of Jeff Loeb. The the idea for the stories are great, but it's the way you're telling them. You're taking snaking us through this journey, and I don't like it. I don't like it. I think for Jeff Loeb, there's too much extra shit, right? There's too much red herring and false pathways. And with Grant Morrison, it's almost like the pathway's too big and there's too much traveling to get to the point. But overall, I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. It's worth a read, but if you're a big Superman fan, it is worth a read. If you're not a big Superman fan, don't ever look. Don't even try. Because, like I said, it's going to assume you know so much about Superman's story, things that I don't even know. But I've read enough. I've read the Rebirth run, and I've read the Death of Superman run, and I've read the John Byrne run. That's all the Superman that I know of in the comic books. I mean, that's the only thing I've been exposed to so far. I'm still kind of new on my Superman fandom. But even from all that, I knew enough to where I could get the story, right? I got who these characters were, where they came from, and all that. But man, it's like trying to reinvent the wheel, which I can't complain too much. There are some things, some Batman writers who have kind of reinvented things that other characters or other writers have done, and done it in a more slimmed down, packed way, and it hasn't been garbage. But for the most part, like, quit trying to reinvent the wheel. But at the same time, like, don't reinvent the wheel. Bring the wheel that was already there. Don't tell me a story with all these characters that you have to reintroduce for the first time. Like, just go. I don't know. It's hard to explain what I'm talking about, because then it sounds like I'm contradicting my earlier point of, yeah, don't just keep writing new characters, but at the same time, you got to be respectful of the old ones. Anyway, I feel like I've killed the chat. Feel like I've killed the chat with my comic reviews. I did. What do we got here? Sorry, don't mean to put my ass on the camera. I got, Joe Casey's Tenses, Batman Tenses. I got both issues in here. Uh, this was good. This was surprisingly good for a story that doesn't get talked about amongst Batman fans, and I think one of the reasons why is it's always been in this prestige format. They haven't released it in trade paperback that I know of. I don't think it's in the Elseworlds. I don't think it would be, 'cause I don't think it is Elseworlds. As far as I know, this isn't collected anywhere. Prestige format, from what I understand, is the only way to get this book. And so, it's not something people tend to pick up because nowadays people read trade paperbacks and omnibuses. And so I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it, but it was a really, really good story. I mean, one of the things that draws me to Batman is a lot of his villains and a lot of the stories get real psychological, and this is no different. I mean, this you had going back to what I said earlier, sometimes people have bad days, man. This one really will have you thinking about bad days. I give it a 9 out of 10. The art was pretty damn good too. So let's see, what else have I read recently? Anything interesting? Oh, I did read the Batman Abduction. Remember I said there was another here, I'll bring it up on my phone here. Batman the Abduction. Essentially, Batman gets abducted by aliens. And it's kind of like the Batman version of the movie Fire in the Sky, where he's trying to convince himself it didn't really happen, and then like his realization that yeah, maybe I did get abducted by aliens, which is humorous because Batman's is in this universe where you have Darkseid and Superman and all these other aliens. He's like, but this wasn't those kind of aliens. And so it's kinda neat. I really like it. I The reason I bought it is because 'cause I'm trying to read pretty much anything Alan Grant and Norm Brayfogle did, and, it looked like there's a logo on it that looked like the other let's see, what was that called? I reviewed on a previous stream another Grant Brayfogle, uh, prestige format comic. Where the hell is it? I know it couldn't have been that long ago. Did I not add it to my collection on my database? Oh, there it is. Dreamland, Grant and Brayfogle, and the logo looked real similar, and so I thought maybe it was a sequel, but no, it's kind of a spiritual sequel because the thing both of these books have in common are like conspiracy theory, out there stuff. I think Alan Grant was really, into the coast to coast AM stuff. And then, the only other thing I read was, Robin 3000. It's an Elseworlds tale. It has nothing to do with Batman, Robin, or anything Batman related. Uh, it's about some futuristic Earth, the year 3000, where, aliens took over, and some guy that they're calling Bruce Wayne had figured out that the aliens were responsible for a virus that wiped out humanity, and humanity considered the aliens their savior. Meanwhile, they were instituting a tyranny against the people, and yeah, that Bruce Wayne had died fighting them in some intergalactic battle, and his nephew became Super Robin, and yet there was no resolution at the end of the book. The end of the book is just, yeah, I got this Robin costume, I'm gonna put it on. Like, that was literally the last page. So, which is weird because the guy at the comic shop, he's like, "Oh, man, I read that when it came out, and it was so good." And he sold me on it. Like, he literally sold me on it, and I get it, people have different tastes, but for me, man, that was just like, yeah, this isn't enough Batman or Robin. I mean, if I wanted to buy a comic about, like, space Nazis, like, I'd just go buy a comic about space Nazis. I don't see why this has to be a Batman and Robin thing. But maybe that's just, you know, that's just an opinion, and I guess other people loved it. It's got good reviews on the Comic Geeks app, which that's what I use. Shout out to leagueofcomicgeeks.com. I like that their app, like, you could literally just scan a barcode and it'll keep track of all the comics you own. So everything on all my shelves is on my profile. Fun times. All right, folks. Well, we're about almost hour and 20 minutes in. I am going to be doing a show tomorrow, 6 p.m. Central, as always, every Saturday and Wednesday, 6 p.m. Central, right here. Same bat time, same bat channel. I'm hoping, I haven't made a lot of interface changes since we've been on. The interface changes I have made, I've done through OBS. So I'm hoping that if I don't fuck with the settings, that I'll be able to continue to use Rumble Studio and continue to be able to stream to all 6 platforms down in the description. So, uh, yeah, that is my hope going forward, is that I will be able to pull this off without the error. Because the other day, if you weren't watching, on Wednesday, I made a change because I was trying to work in the gifts and the countdown. Some people like having a countdown at the beginning of your live stream, so they have time to come in, see the timer, be able to go do something else real quick before they come in. Okay, well, no, damn it. Yeah, I'm getting spam over on Twitch, and I don't have Twitch open, so I can't ban it. But oh well, not gonna worry about it. Anyway, so yeah, I was trying to make the countdown thing work in Rumble Studio, and it was broken. And so what I wound up doing is I made a minor change to my interface. I literally only changed the background. And Rumble Studio stopped broadcasting the screen to Rumble. It continued to broadcast to the other 5 platforms just fine. But they Rumble literally wouldn't broadcast to Rumble. It was insane. And so I've since deleted that stream and re-uploaded the version I downloaded from YouTube, so that's back up. But yeah, I'm hoping that all of these issues with connectivity that I've had with Rumble Studio in the past do not continue. I'm kind of troubleshooting them one by one and realizing what not to do to make the stream fuck up. So, until further notice, I'm going to continue streaming on Rumble Studio, which means I will continue streaming to all 6 platforms, to Locals, Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch. So, feel free to find me on your preferred platform tomorrow, 6 p.m. Central. Not sure what we'll be talking about yet. There might be something big happen in the news tomorrow, but be sure to tune in at that point in time. In the meantime, I'm going to be checking out everyone else's live streams for the weekend. I'm enjoying having the day off work, although now I guess I would have officially been off work. This time of day, I'm usually driving all the way back home. Didn't have to today. All right. So, folks, I'll catch you then. Uh, Please do me a favor, click the like button wherever you're watching me at. If you're watching me on X, click that heart. Watching me on Facebook, click that thumbs up. YouTube, Rumble, same thing. Click that platform's like button. If you're new here, please share me on other platforms and watch a second video. Do one of the two. Pick one. Either share me on another platform or watch a second video. All these video algorithms really like seeing the traffic clicked through on other places, and they'll promote people who do it. So it really helps the channel when you do such things. Um, and yeah, till then, take care of yourselves and each other. Outlast the haters. Don't get any on you. And if you do rub that shit in real good, catch you tomorrow on Miles Culture Plate. Till then, I'm signing off. Good night, everybody.